name is Julie McLaughlin. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and our superintendent, we welcome you to our August 2025 regular meeting of the Lovejoy ISD Board of Trustees. The time is now 7:17 p.m. We are resuming our agenda at item number 4. There is no action to be taken on matters discussed in closed session, so we will proceed to agenda item number 5, which is our opening exercise and pledges. We welcome Mr. Wheeler, Principal of Lovejoy High School.
Tonight, there we go. Tonight, I am joined by Verona Enoho, and she is a current senior at Lovejoy High School. She is our senior class president of the class of 2026. A little bit about her. She is an AP scholar and ranked in the top 10% of the class. She is the president of the Black Culture Society, leading initiatives to celebrate culture and community. She is also, in her free time, she enjoys baking and sharing creations with friends and family. And that passion of hers, she used to, as a founder of Cookies X Charms, partnering with Dorcas Hart and contributing over $1,000 from selling cookies to help fund hygiene items. She is a recipient of the President's Volunteer Service Award. She's a violinist in the school's highest level chamber orchestra and social officer for the Lovejoy Orchestra. She plans to pursue psychology on a pre-med track after graduation. And she is dedicated to making this senior year meaningful, memorable, and successful for the class of 2026. So, Verona, thank you for leading us in our pledges today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, and under one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And now for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, public comments related to August 25th, 2025 agenda items. Ms. Taylor, do we have any public comments on agenda items?
There are no comments this evening.
Wonderful. With no public comments submitted, we will proceed in our agenda. At this time, we'll have our invocation. We invite all who wish to join us. Please do so at this time. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight in service of our students, family, and community. We ask for your wisdom in our work as we seek to make decisions that honor the trust placed in us. Please guide our thoughts and actions so that they may bring you glory. Father, we ask for the blessings upon the families of this school district. In Jesus' name, amen. Agenda item number 8, notifications. Trustees, your board book for the meeting today contains notifications of new hires, public information requests, and cabinet reports. Are there any questions and comments on these items? All right, we will proceed. Thank you. Agenda item number 9, consent agenda. Trustees, your board book for the meeting today contains consent agenda items, including prior meeting minutes, our recurring monthly finance report, and annual vendor RFPs and MOUs. Items 9F through 9J all relate to our annual board planning and goal-setting process, which, as you know, we proposed and discussed in prior board meetings. Are there any questions on these items, or is there an item that a trustee would like pulled for separate consideration? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
With a motion and a second, is there any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 10, we have a celebration of learning presentation. So we begin the core of our agenda tonight with a celebration of learning presentation, which spotlights the fantastic teaching and learning happening in our Lovejoy classrooms. This agenda item reinforces the connection between board governance and instructional outcomes in the classroom, keeping student achievement at the center of our work as a Board of Trustees. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you, President McLaughlin. And to reiterate what you just shared, this is an honor tonight to recognize and celebrate the work of our Willow Springs Social Studies team and leadership. So I'm going to ask them to come up to the podium at this time, and we will begin our presentation, and I'll make some introductions. So I want to recognize Caitlin Eldridge, our principal at Willow Springs Middle School, Heidi Gambrell, 8th grade social studies teacher and department lead for the social studies, Allison Novicki, 8th grade social studies teacher, Mason Leach, 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher, and Miss Emily Peabody, 7th grade social studies teacher. And I also want to recognize Michelle Riddle, who is our 7th through 12th grade coordinator for ARLA and social study, who's had a part in supporting this team in their work. So I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Eldridge to begin our presentation here.
And not only in Lovejoy, but also at Willow Springs Middle School. This table before you shows the 8th grade Willow Springs, how they performed on the test as compared with schools with similar enrollment and demographic data in our state and in our county. I would like to highlight in each category where you can see those percentages that are higher than most of the others that you're seeing on the screen in each scoring category. As we move to the next table, this table is showing the growth in student STAR performance achieved in recent years. These results were achieved on the more rigorous STAR 2.0 assessment that my colleagues will be explaining further in this presentation. I'd like to highlight not only the increased percentage of students meeting the grade level standard, but also that increase that you're going to see in students achieving a score of masters on the test that has increased from 34% to 56% in that category. This is reflective of the willingness of these dedicated educators to adapt their practices to a rigorous test and continue to provide instructional excellence. I hope you enjoy hearing from them tonight, and I want to express my deep gratitude for all of their hard work and collaboration, as they truly are a shining example of the professional learning communities that we have all across Lovejoy, not just at Willow Springs. Thank you for everything.
So I stood before you about 4 years ago to report our STAR test outcomes. 8th grade social studies was an area of needed growth. I want to commend this team for buckling down, taking the challenge, and producing the results that you just saw in the previous slides here of student performance. And I brought this to you before just to kind of bring forth some changes with STAR. STAR 2.0, the test changed in 22-23, and it increased expectations, but also the way that we were assessing students and the rigor of the test changed dramatically. In our Lovejoy 2030, this was an area that we addressed as well, that the committee wanted to ensure that our student achievement was targeted toward excellence and continue that excellence along the way. So I want to lift up some of the changes. Again, I want to take you back to STAR 2.0. You have in front of you, I believe, some copies of some questions that make a comparison to when the test changed. As I shared, it went under a significant redesign, and it was aimed to align the test more closely with classroom instruction and to enhance assessment experiences. So there's an example here, just the differences. Primarily prior to 2022, it was a multiple choice test. The new STAR 2.0, students are required to provide short answer, constructive responses, essays. You saw an increase of graphics that they had to decipher. They had to select answers from a drop-down menus because we went to a online-based assessment. There were two-part response questions and interactions with graphs. So an example here, this is the same standard, 8.5, describe major domestic problems faced by leaders of the new republic, including maintaining national security, creating a stable economic system, and setting up the court system. As you can see on the left side, this is how the question was posed. If you see on the right side, that's an example where the student had to give 2 correct answers, and it was not strictly from a multiple choice. Another example is 8.5, where I explained the impact of the election of Andrew Jackson, and including expanded suffrage. You can see the difference in the multiple choice versus the excerpt. So they had to, this was a written response, a short answer response that students were required to provide. So before I hand it over to the teachers, I just really want to celebrate the characteristics of this team that truly exemplify what Mrs. Cordell shared as we kicked off the school year of the areas of non-negotiables when it comes to high levels of student learning. Number one is that we provide rigorous standard-aligned instruction. So teams that plan and deliver rigorous instruction that align to the standards promises deep understanding, critical thinking, and meaningful application of knowledge. Non-negotiable number 2 was active, engaged student learning. You're going to hear them talk about what that learning has looked like in the classroom for our students. And number 3, assessment for learning. So this team has used assessment to drive the design of instruction and to differentiate based on the needs of the students. Something else we have lifted up for our campuses is that we have identified student learning behaviors we want to see going on in the classrooms. It includes student discourse related to the learning target. It also, we want kids to have productive struggle. We also want to see writing across all content areas, particularly in social studies, and you'll hear them talk about that. You want to see students collaborating and working together and thinking together. Students' ownership of their own learning. You're going to hear about goal setting that this team has done with our students. Students engaged in active learning, connecting their learning to real-world applications, and then also utilizing technology that is purposeful and aligned to the learning targets. So without a doubt, I can assure you that this team has adopted these student engagement practices that they want to see going on in their classrooms, as well as the 3 non-negotiables. So I am going to hand it over to Mrs. Gambrell, and she's going to kick us off.
So I am going to talk to you about our focus on learning. And these are just the strategies and the key indicators are what you see on the screen before you. So this is student goal setting is a strategy that, sorry, it's hard for me to read that and I looked at the other screens. Learning opportunity, okay. So do you mind if we move on to the next slide after
Sure.
because I kind of wrapped it all up. And this is just for you to see what the strategies are and how we're going to measure those indicators. So on the next slide, I'll kind of.
And it ties it back to Lovejoy 2030 is
Yes, all of it is
what we wanted to
tied.
lift up
Thank
here.
you. Thank
Yes.
you. I do have thanks. So on the slide that talks about focus on learning, we've got a focus on goal setting, authentic learning, common formative assessments, and writing as a tool for learning. And this is what I would like to speak to you about. Especially the focus on student goal setting. It's huge, especially I think in 8th grade. We really start to see students start to take ownership over their learning and make the connection to the purpose of why am I learning this. So we decided to direct our instruction to meet the needs of the key indicators on goal setting at a student level where we are embedding study strategies throughout the entire lesson. And that way, at the end of that lesson, they're able to reflect on whether those strategies worked for them, because not every strategy is going to work for every single student. It's a great way for them to, number one, learn different strategies. Then we shift it to a student-centered collaboration amongst their table groups where they're using those strategies, talking about them, hearing their peers talk about those different strategies. As we get closer to the assessment, we actually shifted our review days to where they're in charge of the review. So our test review might be all the level 1 information that they have to know, but when you look at the redesigned STAR test, almost every single question is at least depth of knowledge 2, which means they have to infer. They're applying that level 1 information to higher order thinking questions and skills. So we put that in their hands, especially for that goal setting. During the test review, they have an opportunity to look at some of the most handpicked difficult questions we feel have been put out. And they are defending or striking down answer choices. They're talking out the strategies. It's watching metacognition happening in real time, and it's great. And then after the assessment, they will reflect on what strategies they used, how did that work for them, and if they need something different moving forward. To me, that's been one of the most beneficial things we've done because it's giving them that ownership as well. When we move to the authentic learning, we really use a social studies workshop model with our team. So that means every single lesson, and one lesson could be 1 day or it could be 3 days worth of material. We're starting with a Smart Start Engage as a hook to get them interested, wanting to know more about the subject that we're talking about. Then we'll move into a mini lesson that is teacher-led, back and forth, some small group collaboration, and they're sharing out with the whole group what they've discussed about. Then we'll move into independent inquiry. And during the independent inquiry is when we are taking the time also to meet one-on-one with kids, or maybe small group instruction during that time, but they'll always have the balance of doing the independent inquiry, then coming back as whole group closure and sharing out everything kind of we discussed. And that next step is we are gonna close with writing. Evidence-based writing is huge for this, not just this year, but moving forward as our philosophy and our shared principles. The common formative assessments that we have curated over the last couple years are used for progress monitoring. This is our hard data that we get to look at, which is great because all the questions that they're taking are in Aware, so it's very easy for us to use all of the platforms to choose a standard, look at all of our students, monitor how they're doing on that standard, and then from that point, decide, does this student need intervention or extension if they're mastering early on. Every single question that they see within Aware is STAR-like. It looks like STAR 2.0. It's not just multiple choice questions. They are using the interactive types, drop and drag, short constructed responses on various assessments that they take. And we are using the common formative assessments for every single priority standard. We make sure we're monitoring all of those. And then writing as a tool for learning. We are a nonfiction class. Our kids are reading, writing, listening, speaking every single day in their social studies rooms. And it could be just a small reflection of their opinion on something, but we are using that writing as evidence-based writing. They are getting very used to cite your source. You need your clear claim. You need to be able to back it up with evidence and then analyze that evidence to support your claim. And it's just something that we're doing every single day. It's very natural for them, which is going to be a life skill so that when they do have an opinion, they're able to articulate it and back it up with evidence, reliable evidence. So yes, it's very, very exciting. And I have the best team. And so because we all really believe in all of these shared principles, we're able to work so well together and just build upon what we've already done. So, thank you. Do you guys want this up there? Yes. All right. I'm going to hand it over to Allison Novicki to talk about collaboration.
Hello, board and cabinet and Mrs. Cordell. Thank you guys so much for having us here. I have to say, just personally, how much it means to see the growth each year on the one slide, how much that really means, because that's kind of always our focus, is to make sure that we are just growing every year. We always want to get better. We don't want to get too comfortable with what we're doing. So the way when we collaborate as a team and we meet, we have some planning documents that we use, and what we really want to strive for is that for every single day of the year, you basically have a document that has links to every single thing that we're doing. So a lot of what she just talked about, whether it's a smart start of how we're getting them engaged at the start of class, or what part of it are we leading them, what part of it are they discussing as table groups, what part of it are they having to read and write independently. It is so planned out, and there are links to every single thing. And we make sure that we have different levels. So if, we have our on-level 8th grade ideas for each of those areas, but then we also use things like Magic School, which has been an awesome tool for us, where we can input things and we can lower it a year or two or more if we have struggling students. We can raise it a year or two or more to push our students, especially like our gifted students. And so it's so user-friendly, because even when you sit in a meeting and you talk for a while about things, life happens and you go and you have tons of kids in front of you and you do a million things between that time that y'all met and the next day or even a week down the road. And so I can go back to it and go, oh yeah, that's what we were talking about. So it's so planned out to where we can all go back and we're adding to it all the time. Every day that I go into it, I can see Coach Leach is in it and doing something to it or adding something in, because someone will have an idea and you just slide it in. Like you're like, this class, they do better with more hands-on things. So you find those things and then you just slip it in wherever it goes on the planning document. So as you go down those 4 critical questions of the PLC team, we're always like, what do we want them to know? How can we get it down to that? What are the priority standards? What do we know is tested more often? So again, working smarter, not harder, Lead Forward gives all that to you, which is like a Region 10 resource. We can go look at how many times has the state asked this standard? How many times has it asked another standard? So we really start to trim away the stuff that we realize, we, meaning me, that I just love it. So we've maybe had more of it in the curriculum, but it's just not there. It's not getting us the bang for our buck in our time in our classes. So again, it just helps us work smarter, not harder. And then what do we want them at the end? How do we want them to show us that they've learned whatever it is that we're teaching them on those standards? And so we make sure we're very tightly aligned. We do weekly quick checks. They do not like it at the beginning of the year because they feel they want to call them quizzes and tests and they feel like we're checking in. And we are. When we do lessons in class, we want to know that you're learning it with us along the way, not right at test time. Then you're having to go back for the whole 4 weeks before. We're doing these things all the time. So I can get a quick list of data and we put them on Aware. So it's why they think they're so serious when they're really just daily grades, because then we can pull that data. These are the kids struggling with this concept. These are the ones struggling with this concept. You take this tutoring group, you take this one, I'll take this one during leopard time. Again, it is working smarter, not harder, and you've got to have a team to rely on to be able to do that. You cannot do it alone. And so I, like Mrs. Gambrell said, I adore them all, and we're all so different. We all bring different things to the table, which is so important. So like, I can slap a lot of things down on something, but it looks horrible. So I'm like, help, somebody make it look better, because this doesn't look very good. So everyone on the team is contributing different things, and we all have like different knowledge in different areas. So again, that's what we're discussing in those meetings. We had to meet a lot at first. And I feel like now we're doing a lot like on the fly. Like I said, during class, you can see people making changes because we're now at a place after a couple of years that we can really make quick impacts or quickly check in together and make changes to things. So we're turning our attention towards maybe another area that we can make better in our on those planning documents that we have. And then finally, I cannot tell you how much I adore Emily Peabody and the 7th grade team. She has absolutely been a godsend to us. These kids come to us in such a different place than they had been coming to us in years past. Not that I'm knocking 7th grade at all. They were learning a lot of awesome 7th grade stuff, but we have these shared principles and we've got them pushing them harder. It was like it was taking till 8th grade to push them that hard, and they're now in there doing that with our 7th graders. So when they're coming to us a little better, then we get them a little better and we can push them a little farther. So it's about that, just seeing what we can do every year to get a little bit more growth. And I am super proud of our efforts, and I so appreciate you guys having us here tonight to share this with you. And Coach Leach is going to tell you now about our results.
It is me. All right. That's the perfect slide. So I'm Mason Leach. I teach 7th and 8th grade over at Willow, and I'm super grateful to be in Lovejoy. I am really happy that we're a district that values fun and relationships and collaboration, but I think a lot of districts value those things. I think what sets our community apart is the focus on results and outcomes. We are a community of achievers, and we don't shy away from that, whether it's on the field or on the court or in the classroom. The expectation from community members, from central admin, from our admin, and from ourselves is we need to do better. Whatever we're doing now, we need to strive to do even better, and the results do matter. And what I'm really proud of with our team is that we have taken the challenge that you see on the screen right here, where it says, for our performance objective, our campus improvement goal was go from 68% on meets to 70% or higher. Our team took that goal and said, you know, we could have been like, well, this is a lot of pressure. I don't know, this isn't fair. We have these kind of kids and they don't know about this kid over here and they don't know about this kid over here. And instead of making any excuses, we just said, all right, let's dig in PLC and figure out how we can try to meet that. And what it looked like once we embraced that as a challenge, and once we embraced our admin team basically saying, it's not that we don't think you're working hard, we think you're working really hard, we just want you to see, are there any areas where we can maybe address some gaps? Once we embraced it as more of a challenge, then we could dig in and work backwards from that goal. Logistically, what that basically looks like is us meeting in PLCs and diving into data. That's our focus on results. Our day-to-day focus on results is our data. As Ms. Gambrell mentioned, that data comes from quick checks. So when we assess essential standards about once a week, we're going to immediately look at that data the very next day, and we're going to pull small groups for leopard time. We used leopard time really, really well, I believe, at Willow. We're going to pull in small groups of students that we think either didn't meet the standard that we set for everybody, or maybe they just underperformed for themselves and what they're personally capable of. We're going to pull those students in, whether it's I send my students to them or they send their students to me, or we bring our own students in, and we're going to do some sort of reteach. It's not okay for any students to fall through the cracks. So if you did poorly on a quick check, we're not going to move on a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks and let you take the test without having gone back and tried to help you do better on that essential standard. Is it a perfect system? Absolutely not. But that's our intent always, is to try to catch students where they are. And that goes for our GT students as well. So students who are just absolutely crushing it, we're sitting in those PLCs, and we're not just talking about students who maybe we think underperformed on a particular assessment. We're also taking those students who are high achievers and we're saying, okay, what is it that we can do to enrich their experience? What can we do to help them go above and beyond where they already are? Is this student just sitting in our class and it's all easy for them? Or are we giving them opportunities to have an extension that pushes them and maybe even allows them some ownership of what they're learning, and try to take that and take it beyond our classroom and apply it to, like Ms. Gambrell said, things that they will use, skills that they will use as they enter into life beyond Lovejoy ISD. So I think all of that begins with a focus on results and not being afraid of what others might see as maybe like pressure being put on our team and the 7th grade team to perform really well, because that's okay. Expectations are good, and it's okay to look at results, especially when you're using it as data. So, all right. The great Miss Peabody.
First of all, I want to congratulate my 8th grade colleagues. I'm not at all surprised that their scores are where they are. They're a fabulous team. I learned so much from them. We meet once a week, and with 7th and 8th grade. And we're so very fortunate to learn from one another. As 7th grade, we listen to what their needs are. Over the past year, we've reorganized some of the way we teach 7th grade in order to meet those needs and support 8th grade. We're very lucky that our state history offers a lot of support, and it parallels a lot of what happens in 8th grade U.S. history. So our kids come with a depth of knowledge, and we can thank the state for that and the history that is there. Our strong 7th grade alignment, it supports 8th grade standards, it reduces those learning gaps, it strengthens critical thinking, and it sets students up to enter 8th grade ready to engage more deeply in U.S. history. And that's our goal in 7th grade, is to align with them, support them the best way that we can, make sure we're emphasizing the things that will help them the most. We, in 7th grade, have added a lot of the STAR-type questions onto our exams to help support that, to get them ready for 8th grade, so that way it's not something they're seeing for the first time. Last year, we emphasized writing. We do a lot of note-taking in 7th grade to kind of break them into that process. They know they can do hard things. They finish out the year ready to go, and hopefully we can continue that support and that scaffolding for 8th grade. So I'm very proud of my 8th grade colleagues. They're very much deserve all the accolades they get. They're awesome. Thank you.
So I hope what you heard is alignment, the importance of alignment between grade levels. This team exemplifies that. Collaboration, checking for understanding and adjusting learning based on your data, focused on results. This team took the challenge and they shifted their practices, which isn't easy. Change isn't easy sometimes, but they certainly dug in and did what they needed to do to get the results they needed. Working smarter, not harder, and just a high commitment to excellence. I do want to lift up, we've been contacted by some other districts inquiring what we are doing here in 8th grade social studies. So that is also a high compliment to this team as well. So
I wanted to make sure that each of you, Mrs. Eldridge, Mr. Leach, Mrs. Peabody, Ms. Gambrell, Mrs. Novicki, Mrs. Riddle, and the CNI team under your leadership, Dr. Tinsley, know how much we value this work and how much we know it impacts our students. As you can see and have heard from what they have shared, this is very complex professional work. And this team has embodied our core values, they have embodied our culture commitments, and they are a model PLC, which they can tell you is not easy, and it takes a daily relentless commitment to doing what is right for students and not what is easy for us as adults or what we already know as adults. This team has had to challenge themselves to learn a great deal to continue to best serve our students, and we are just so grateful, so proud. You all are a model, and you have impacted so many students, and we are excited to share this with our district because we know that the rest of us will continue to learn from what you all are modeling for us. Thank you for everything that you are doing.
Great job. I echo Katie's comments. I remember the board meetings when we were discussing these items early on, and am grateful to see the progress we've made in your commitment to excellence. So awesome.
I'll just add my thanks. Thank you very much for taking the time to prepare this presentation, not just for us, but for the community. We're so proud of the work that you're doing. Thank you. All right, agenda item number 11, we have a safety and security program update. So board, this agenda item supports our board priority of safety and security, which states that the Lovejoy ISD Board of Trustees will support a safe and secure environment for all students and staff by ensuring the appropriate policies, resources, and oversight are in place. Mr. Percival.
Good evening, Board. Superintendent Cordell. As President McLaughlin mentioned, we would like to provide a kind of a beginning of the year safety and security update for the district. And so our director, Casey Littlefield, will be helping present tonight. And the first thing we'd like to do, back in July, we had our summer District Safety and Security Committee meeting. And so that meeting was held before school started. And as part of that meeting, we covered a district vulnerability assessment. We talked about a school marshal training update. We talked about the 2025 Operation Unite recap that happened in early June. And then we also did a follow-up and update on the Centegix project, which covers our SPAT requirements. And so we'd like to cover a couple of those items. The District Vulnerability Assessment, or DVA review, is something that is under the Texas Education Code 37.1083 as implemented by House Bill 3. And it essentially requires that TEA conduct a detailed district vulnerability assessment on a random basis, and that happens once every 4 years. So we're on the cycle this year here within the district. These assessments are going to evaluate facility access controls. So those will be things such as locks, entry points, perimeter security, as well as emergency management and operations plans and procedures, and then other safety and security requirements. And so in coordination with TEA Senior Agent Chip Roberts, Lovejoy will be completing the DVA during the fall semester. Updates on the progress and any potential findings will be shared during the fall meeting. We anticipate that probably happening around October, and so we'll have updates at the latest at the October board meeting. So as part of the vulnerability assessment, there are a couple different rubrics that the state has assembled to kind of help us assess where we're at and help identify maybe areas that we could be better at. And so there's a district rubric, and there's also a campus rubric. Campus rubric is kind of an abbreviated version of that district rubric. The district rubric is quite, I would call it pretty intense, but it's really going to provide an opportunity for us to go through with a fine-tooth comb and really evaluate each and every campus with someone from TEA. And so as the history team mentioned earlier, we continue to look for ways to get better, not only academically, but also from a safety and security standpoint. So this will be very valuable information to have moving forward. So I'm going to ask Director Littlefield to go in and talk a little bit about the school marshal training update. I know that they've been busy over the summer. They continue to be busy as we get geared up and complete the first couple of weeks of school. And so, Director Littlefield, it's all yours.
All right. Good evening. I heard a lot heard a lot from curriculum. Some words that I thought exactly mirror a lot of what we're doing in safety and security. When you think about things like team and planning and unique experience and contributions, I think that says a lot as well with our team and as our school marshal team and how they contribute and lead on their campuses. I'm obviously proud to talk about our school marshal program any chance that I get, but I think everyone in the room's proud. I think that our school marshal program is not just represented by Casey Littlefield. I think that everyone in this room has a hand in the success of our school marshal program. And so when I get an opportunity to talk about it, I see people's face light up because there's a high expectation for what we're doing. And I think it's important that everyone hears it from me that that we're continuing to get better and better, and we're leading by example and doing the right things. We're never going to settle. We're going to be progressive, and we're going to always look to gain more experience and skill sets. And so that's really what my role is as a director, is to kind of push our guys forward as a school marshal team. We've done a lot in training. We do a lot annually with training in terms of TCOL expectations or mandates by TCOL. We do a lot of trainings with ALERT, which is kind of the golden standard in active attack response. We do things independently of those organizations. We obviously have internal training. We spend about 100 hours a year annually training as a team specifically regarding active attack response. And if for those of you that don't know, that's equivalent to a lot of part-time tactical teams in the local area. So we're fortunate in our marshal roles that we're really honed in. We are a specialized unit, if you will. When you think about law enforcement officials, your police officers, they have a broad amount of things they're looking at. They have to be experts in a lot of things. We're fortunate enough that we can be experts in a very narrow response. And what that does for me is it allows me to really get our guys trained and honed and to be able to give them the tools and tools of the trade to be successful. And so I'm always looking at how to get better. We have a lot of things on the radar this year in terms of training. But specifically, I want to talk about the next slide, which is something that we're going to implement. And you can move on to the next one, Kyle. We're going to implement a mentor training session. And so what this is for our team is it's going to give our school marshals an opportunity to go beyond Lovejoy and into our communities, whether we're talking about Plano or Allen or Garland or Richardson, and it's going to give my school marshals an opportunity to spend one-on-one time with individuals in specialized roles in police departments. So when you look at this picture here with George, our drone pilot, he's in Cedar Hill with their drone pilots, and what this does is it gives him an opportunity to go talk shop with them about drone operations, for them to give best practices, trade craft, for them to explain to him what they're utilizing in the field that's effective. And I'm going to do that with all of our marshals. So if you're our breacher on our team, then my expectation will be that you go spend time with Allen's SWAT team breacher or Plano's SWAT team breacher and build relationships and gain experience. It's twofold. It's always going to be twofold for us. One is certainly we want to increase our skill set. But two, we also want to build relationships and collaboration with our partners. We believe that having a great relationship is going to build trust and, most importantly, confidence in what we do every day. And so we're going to have our school marshals, where our campuses will be covered, but we're going to have our school marshals go and spend time this year and really focus in on what we're doing as a team. I told Superintendent Cordell and Mr. Percival this year that I'm going to slow down a little bit this year in 2025 and 2026 and really hone in on what we're doing as a team to become better at what we've already practiced and trained to do. So that's going to be our goal in terms of training. We had a great event in 2025 this summer with Operation Unite. As you can see in the picture, we had a lot of partners: Fairview Police, Fairview Fire, Lucas Fire, the Allen Police Department. We had a Dallas ISD police chief that was represented. The FBI and all of our Lovejoy ISD school administrators attended this event. It's a great time to collaborate, and again, we do learn a lot. This isn't the world that a lot of people live in, and so to get an opportunity to meet and greet and talk shop about emergency management is always a good thing. And so we look forward to this every summer, and we're going to continue those efforts. The Centegix project update. Many of you have heard about this project. Again, I want to circle back around with Centegix. This says safety and security. Centegix is safety and security, but it's also IT. And our IT partners, Director Korb in the back, they've spent a lot of hours. So this isn't a Casey and Kyle project. This is a collaboration amongst several departments, and we couldn't have rolled this out this year without our IT department. So thank you, Director Korb, for that. But this project is now up and running. We've issued almost 600 SPAT devices, silent panic alert technology devices. These devices give the ability to have our nurses and school marshals and administrators respond to a general alert for medical, for behavioral, so that we can assess and make a determination on who's responsible for handling that situation. The additional enhancement with this device is now we can actually initiate protocols with this device and take a quicker and more decisive action as it relates to active attack and active attack protocols. And so there's a lot of enhancements with strobes and beacons and just a lot of capability with this device that was, again, a huge investment by our community. And when I talk about a community effort, again, this is just another example of how this is cutting edge. This device was utilized last year in Georgia. It saved the lives of a lot of students. And so we mirrored that same technology, and it's some of the best out there. And so we're very pleased with the rollout, and we're just looking forward to seeing how it's effective. We've used it a few times this past couple of weeks already for just regular needs. So that's the Centegix project update.
So all of the items that Casey talked about, they come at a cost, right? And so I did want to put a slide in here that just kind of outlines overall cost of the safety and security program. He talked about investment of the community, investment of our board of trustees. And so I wanted to kind of put the numbers to that, to what it looks like. And so that first line item up there, We have a very generous foundation for Lovejoy schools, which is supported by our Lovejoy community, our Lovejoy staff. And you'll see there that $126,000 for this school year in relation to safety and security came from that foundation, which is remarkable. State funding, almost $280,000 district-wide for the year for safety and security. And then you'll see that brings the total funding for the year to $405,000, almost $406,000. And then you'll see that total expenditures to operate the safety and security here within the district is $778,000. So that leaves us short $372,500 on the year. And so it's remarkable, you know, the money that we get from the foundation is fantastic, but I just wanted to bring that forward so that everybody can see the totality of the deficit that we're faced with as a district annually as it relates to safety and security. I put a little note down there at the bottom. For this year, of course, we had that expenditure of $486,000 for the SPAT technology. That's a 5-year investment, but that's in addition to the numbers that we shared there on the slide. Any questions about the Marshall program, safety and security in general, or about the numbers that were shared? We're happy to take any.
The total expenditures of $778,000, that is from the M&O budget, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And thank you for the update. I know as a board, we carry the weight and the responsibility we share with you to keep our students safe every single day. And as a parent, you know, how much that gives us comfort to know the structures that are in place. Would you mind to tell a little bit more about the two different types of button pushes so the parents are aware of those two different options?
Yeah, so the first button push is an I need help button, and it's really designed for medical issues, things that would come in general operations of schools day to day. It's very, you know, I just tell everybody that's the 99.999% use that we'll have for. The second button push triggers an alert that goes to our 911 dispatch center and lets them know immediately that a school has taken a lockdown protocol, has initiated a lockdown protocol. And it also sets into motion displays and strobes. It takes over computer screens. It will, in the near future, take over PA systems. So it has a lot of capability to start that alerting process immediately. And we give that 8-button push to all of our staff members. And so when you think about things like a grounds or maintenance crew member driving into a campus and seeing what could potentially be maybe an armed person walking up to a school, we could get a school into a lockdown protocol immediately and mitigate a lot of things. So we give the freedom to our staff members because there's so many people out and about in our district that are in roles in which they could help get ahead of things. And so that's the 2-button functionalities. Do you have anything else on that?
And to reiterate, the coverage is now not just indoors, but across the campuses?
Yes, the coverage is now on entirety of school premises. So if you think about being on the back football fields at Lovejoy High School, the baseball fields, softball fields, if you're on Lovejoy school property, then your silent panic alert technology functions.
It's always exciting to go to our SLI, continuing education training. There's always security opportunities to learn about other security programs, and I've failed to go a year when I wouldn't go in and listen to what's going on, and I'll always walk away with a sense of enjoyment and pride in knowing that we're doing everything within our power to stay as proactive and ahead of the game as possible. I know that from listening to what they consider to be some of the best-in-class security programs, that we have our best foot forward at all times. And the other thing I just wanted to compliment is just the personality and attitude and the culture that is existence among your security staff. They are a major component of our culture here at Lovejoy, and it's part of what helps create buy-in to the safety and security process, the respect they command at events, and those types of things in a time when that's not necessarily the world we live in. So I'm grateful on many levels that you continue to bring excellence to our district in this regard.
Yeah, and I would just add to that a little bit, in addition to training opportunities and discussions with other similarly situated districts. You know, several of us have had opportunity in Austin in the halls of the Capitol to discuss our security program with legislators. And I think they've taken a lot of what we're doing and taken that to heart, and they consider that in terms of their legislation. So, you know, a lot of times when we're talking about a particular piece of legislation, we offer something in return for the ask, and that is, hey, look, here's what we do, you know, and maybe, and they're very curious, and they're very receptive to figure out, you know, kind of how we're doing it, and then I think that they express appreciation for what we're doing as a district, and I think that's communicated, you know, to other legislators throughout the state, as well as to other districts on how they can improve their security program, not only to meet the security mandates that are there in the legislation, the mandates and some funding for those mandates that's provided by the legislature, but it is a source of pride, and it is a talking point that we engage in a lot at the state level because it is such a priority to us as well as the state.
Maybe could we go back to that number slide? I think this is just an important piece of information for our community, so I appreciate you putting that together. The level of importance that this has for our schools, but there's just always an awareness that the funding does not always match the mandate when it comes to public education in Texas. And this is certainly another area where I think the board and the rest of the community could continue to engage with our elected representatives regarding having the necessary funding to operate the program at its full. All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, trustees, our next 3 agenda items, number 12 through 14, are common meeting agenda topics that we typically cover in the month of August, once school has started and we know more about our enrollment, and once our local property tax values are finalized by the County Appraisal Office. So we'll begin with agenda item 12, enrollment update. Ms. Koenig.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Cordell. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm going to give you an enrollment update now that we're into the second week of school. Every year we go back and look at trends on the first day, fifth day, and then of course our very last day is comparison. And so this is where we were in 2022, 2023. We ended up on 42, 46 and a half. And then this year we started the first day of school 3690. And we added, once we got everyone here that following Monday, we were at 3775 and a half there. So, but that's pretty typical of what happens there that first week. We see a lot of movement as kids that have not withdrawals and also entries there. Once again, I wanted to show you on 523, we're at 3941.50. Our current enrollment, ADA, is 3789.5. We are about 17 and a half above that projected ADA number at 3772. And we have, and that's ADA, of course, and we have 318 scholars. As you recall, we were going to take more scholars this year, up to 350. We still have parents that are residents in the district that applied for scholars. However, they have not moved. Their homes may be for sale, or they may be planning on moving this year. So we actually may have a few more of those if you see those increase there. When we look at each school, 7.5 is that count does not include fee-based. Those are just ADA students for Lovejoy Childhood, the LCDC Center. Hart, 533, Puster, 508, Sloan Creek, 554, Willow Springs, 694, and Lovejoy High School, 1493. So good, healthy numbers. Really excited this year as we were doing staffing. Just felt good about it. Our projections, as you can see, were pretty close. Probably the closest it has been post-COVID. So that was exciting, I think, for both Thomas and I. I felt like we got some good numbers and that we're going to start seeing those trends again that we're used to. At the high school, our class, our projection was 1489. We have 1495 right now, about 24, 25 in a classroom there. So once again, very, very pleased with those staffing numbers. And of course, those are core classes, not looking at fine arts or any of those, but just core classes is what we consider. Willow Springs, 695 total students enrolled. Our projection was 690, so 5 over, and 17, 18 in classes there too. Once we start averaging that on, of course, courses there for 7th and 8th grade. Then we go down to Sloan Creek. Our projection's 554. We have 541, 23, 22, 23 in those classes, average 23.08, so about 23. Once again, we felt like those looked really, really strong numbers there. And Hart, we projected 522. We were a little bit over. You know, kindergarten's always hard. We don't know who's redshirting that year for kindergarten or not. So we have our class size average in kindergarten was 19. We have 1 over the 22 in 4th grade, 111 there. So really, we're pretty pleased with that, average 2021. Remember that we do try to get as close as we can to that 22-to-1 ratio. Puster, we were at the projection 530, 507. Once again, we have 2 3rd grade classes, 112 in 3rd grade at Puster at 22.4. The others really look 2021 there too, so very, very pleased with those numbers. And then we looked at LCDC this year. Pre-K tuition employee speech only, we had 49, and then those fee-based 45 for a total of 98 little ones down there. You can see them out the side playing. So always fun to get down there and spend some time with those kiddos too. So those are just kind of overall what our enrollment numbers were by as a district and by each school. One thing, we did have 3 classes over the 22-to-1 ratio, and as you probably every year you know, we do have to ask for a class size exemption waiver for any of those classes over 22. We have 30 days to do that from the first day of school. So we either have to do it within 30 days or by October 1st. There are some things that the commissioner will consider when he grants these exemptions: unanticipated enrollment growth, lack of facilities, lack of teachers, or financial hardships. He also knows that it's hard to predict exactly how many numbers we're going to have in each grade level in those classes there. And when we look at, adding teachers, we do look at what support. We do have student residents, and then again this year, supporting our teachers. I've met several of them. They're super excited. They'll be with us all year. We look at our student needs. Disruption to student schedules, like if we add a teacher, do we have to move kids from classroom to classroom? Talk with our administrators, have them provide us some input. We also look at the candidate pool. Do we have highly qualified applicants that are there to hire, and also financial impact? So if we were looking to add a teacher at Hart and a teacher at Puster, we would be looking at about another $65,000 for each campus to add those 2 teachers when we're looking at adding staff there of those 2. But we don't want to just limit it to that.
Ms. Koenig, can we clarify? I know you gave the number probably per teacher, and we're so pleased to have for our teachers with 5+ years experience that increase the state
Yes.
gave of 8,000. So it probably puts it, what would we say, about 72,000?
72,
right?
74, yes,
per
probably
teacher.
higher, yes.
And, right, and I do want to clarify that when we look at a ratio in terms of funding by campus, just to keep in mind, because I think there was a conversation earlier about as we monitor the impact on our classrooms, the difference between a 1-to-17 ratio, and this is just an estimate, and a 1-to-22 ratio is $1 million for the district. So it would be $500,000 per campus. Is that
at elementary?
Would the elementary only?
Yeah,
Would that
when we
be
look at the
accurate,
22
Mr.
to 1.
Willman? Okay, so I do want to emphasize just how grateful we are for Ms. Koenig and Mr. Willman's work, both with the demographic projections, working with the demographer, all the work they put into assigning the FTE allotments, monitoring those numbers as we approach the beginning of the school year to try to get that in a range that is going to maximize the student experience and then also allow us to work in alignment with our approved budget. And they have done an outstanding job, and that is difficult because they are dealing with projections.
Right. What ifs?
I would just say, echo that, thank you. I am so grateful to see those just 3 waivers at that elementary level. I know that that is the result of so much effort and hard work on your part. To echo kind of what Katie said, I think that these numbers currently reflect what we've prioritized. I think when we started the budget process, the board talked about class size being a budget priority. I see that priority reflected. When we were talking about continuing the scholar program, we talked about balancing that value add of those students with maintaining the integrity of our class sizes. I see that reflected here. I know we got some challenging results in the summer on that elementary level in terms of STAR, and so we are keened in on how we provide that extra support. I think class size is one of the ways we can do that, so I see that reflected. And most importantly, we heard from incredible educators tonight, and one of the board priorities and goals that we passed this evening, they stress teacher retention.
Right.
So to the extent that we can provide that through class sizes, I think is wonderful. So I want to keep an eye on those 3 elementary classes as much as you do. That 3rd grade jump is a huge academic development pivot for those kids, but I'm just very pleased with the work that you've done, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other
Got
questions?
pretty close on those estimates
I know.
there, Anna. Good job.
Yeah, I've been doing this for like 13 years, and it's the closest I've ever been, so I was pretty excited, so.
I'm pretty convinced that you might just be the best in the business at it, so thank you very much. Well, continuing in that vein, we'll move to agenda item 13, which is to consider and act on our class size exemption resolution. Ms. Koenig, anything else to add there?
Yes. Yes, basically what we would do is we would be asking for a resolution, which I've shared with you, to ask the commissioner to give us 3 exemptions for those 3 class sizes. We do notify parents, and we would want it to get them notified, letters sent to them just as soon as possible, just in the transparency of the district and the class sizes.
Just for clarity, so the way the
Yes.
exemption is written right now and
Yes.
in the book, it's a universal, right? It's not just for the 3
Correct.
that we discussed? Okay.
Correct. And basically what I do is I mark every 30 days on my calendar all year long. So, and I will run a report if we need to ask for any more waivers. Then I would notify the board, I'd notify you, but I could go ahead and do the application. Last year, we did it in the fall, and I didn't have to do it again until like February, because when we added students, I think there was only like maybe a 9 student difference there. But yes, you're correct.
So if we wanted to divide the question this evening so that we would just talk about those 3 tonight, could we get another enrollment update maybe at our September 17th workshop and table the universal waiver for now? Would that cause an administrative burden? I think it would be worth it for transparency just to have one more close to that deadline that you're filing, to have that enrollment update if we add more waivers.
Okay.
That's just a thought that I'm putting out there.
The only thing is that September, the next meeting's the 23rd. We could do an update. The 23rd, I'd have to have them out on the 24th, I believe. I think the 30th it's just really close, but it's up to you.
You bring the update to the board each time we have a waiver filed, correct?
I notify you.
Would that not suffice? Or would that address your concern?
I think if we're granting a universal waiver tonight, but we're meeting again on the 17th, and she can file on the 23rd, I guess I like the idea of waiting to approve a universal waiver when I have seen kind of the numbers closest to the deadline.
Is that what?
It's not just my decision, though.
Yeah.
Yes, and I can provide a little bit of information in regard to class size exemption resolutions.
Right.
So a class size exemption resolution does not technically a
required by the
requirement
board.
in order for a school district to apply with the commissioner for a class size exemption.
Correct.
So it doesn't technically require board action. We bring it to you all from a transparency standpoint. After, traditionally what has happened is after you all have considered approval of this, we then notify parents, because what we are required to do is, of course, notify and apply with the commissioner, And then by October 1st or by the 30th day, we have to notify our parents. So our parents that have any children in any of the classrooms that would qualify, we would need to get communication out to them by the 31st day, which is the 24th.
And remember, I have to apply, and he has to approve them first.
Right.
So that takes, sometimes, I mean, it's taken up to a week before, but sometimes it takes, it's pretty quickly, just depends.
But you all do have a board workshop on the 17th, so that is an option. And so we could do that application, Ms. Koenig, on September 18th.
Correct.
And
Yes.
then our goal would be to see
To
if we
have them
hear
out by
back
the
from
23rd.
By the
24th.
24th.
24th, yep. Yes, ma'am.
And then we're required on an ongoing basis as a district within that 30th day
Correct.
to notify parents
Parents
if
every
any
30
classroom-
days.
If any classrooms
Exceeds
re-
any,
reach
yes.
that level.
And it's pre-K through 4. So if any classroom pre-K through 4 goes above the 22-to-1 ratio, up until the last 12 weeks of the school year, we would notify parents.
I'll make a motion to consider an act on the class size exemption resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, and so the current motion on the table is to approve as presented, is that correct?
I think I'm comfortable with that also, just because I think the administration's historically done a very good job of maintaining transparency, and if we had to change the number of waivers, I think as long as we continue that precedent of making sure that that information comes back to the board, I'm comfortable with the motion or the recommendation as written here.
I think also that if we are wanting something done differently, that we can give that direction, but at the time when you have 3 or 4, you can't really change anything. All you can do is apply for the waiver, but we as a board, if there's something we're uncomfortable with, can give guidance to them to address it. I think, otherwise, I think we just belabor something that's inevitable.
Do we anticipate that there will be a significant change or more waivers brought in the next month?
It's just so hard to tell. I mean, sometimes you'll get kids, we just don't know what grade level after Labor Day, sometimes. I would, as I said, I'll continue giving updates to you. It's just, it's just not a science.
Right.
Yeah.
We do have after Labor Day. However,
Yes.
if we look in 23, 24, from our 5th day of instruction to our last day of instruction, 9 student
Correct.
add, and then 24, 25, which was last year, we had, under 5, 4.
4.
And some of those are not even till second semester.
Right. Some of them are.
It seemed to
had
me
them.
like most of the variability happened between the first day of school and the 5th day of school.
Right, correct.
I know some large swings in the numbers. I was doing the calculations
Right.
on my calculator going, wow, I didn't realize that many students waited till the 5th day.
Yeah,
to
I
enroll.
think, yeah, and I think some of that, of course, is the midweek start sometimes. Yeah, I do.
Trustees, we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion, so we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
The motion carries 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to restate, I hear the consensus of the board is update notification.
Right.
Regarding those waivers. Thank
Thank you.
you. All right. Item number 14 is consider an act on the 2025-26 tax rate adoption. Mr. Willman.
Good evening, President McLaughlin, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Cordell. So tonight, we're going to present on the maximum compressed rate, or the MCR, which was released by TEA earlier this month, and the updated tax rate that will be up for your consideration. So kind of before diving into the tax rate, I wanted to provide a refresher on terms that will be used during the presentation, and also on the required attached documents that was shared and completed by the Collin County Tax Assessor's Collection Office. So the proposed tax rate, you may recall, is what we brought forward in the June board meeting during the 25-26 budget adoption. This rate is just calculated based off of the prior year tax rate. And we do this because we don't know what the certified values will be. And Cullen County submits those certified values and completes them at the end of July. So we receive those on July 25th. The adopted tax rate is what you'll consider this evening. And that is the calculated tax rate based off of the certified tax values that were provided by Cullen County. You'll also notice within the attached documents the statement of the no new revenue rate. This is a tax rate that would produce the same amount of taxes if applied to the same property's tax in both years, so based on their certified values. So this is without respect to how much funding we would receive per the state funding formula for the schools. So when we think about the tax rate for the school districts, there are two different rates, which is the maintenance and operations, or the M&O, and the interest and sinking, or the INS. But there are three components of the tax rate, two of which are tied to the M&O, and then one for the INS. So you can see here on the M&O, the maximum compressed tax rate, the MCR. This is defined as the M&O tax rate at which a district must levy to receive the full amount of Tier 1 allotment and funding. This is established through a formula by TEA based off of the certified values. The second component of the M&O is the enrichment tax pennies. This is in excess of the MCR and cannot exceed the 17 cents. Of which the first 8 pennies are considered the golden pennies, which is not subject to recapture. And the final 9 are the copper pennies, which are subject to recapture and do require voter approval. So Lovejoy ISD voters approved up to the 1383 in enrichment pennies. And then the debt rate is the INS rate, which is necessary to pay the school district's debt payments on the principal and interest side in the coming year. And the rate does include the first installment of the voter-approved 2025 bonds. So I shared previously back in June when we adopted the 25-26 budget. During the public hearing, we used the rate of the 2024 tax year, which was the 1.2552. And as we look at the new MCR for the 2025 tax rate, you can see that the maintenance and operations side is at 0.7552, which is exactly the same as what was in the 24 tax year. The MCR remained at 0.6169. Then when you add that in with the enrichment pennies of the 0.1383, it gets you to the 0.7552. And then we'll be maintaining the 50-cent rate on the interest and sinking side. So when we look at the no new revenue tax rate, the no new revenue tax rate is 1.1505. So this current tax rate effectively represents a 9.1% increase. So when we look at the historical tax rate, you'll see that in the 2025 tax year, it is the first year for which the district did not receive a compressed rate reduction since the release of the MCR in 2019. This is largely due to Senate Bill 4. So what we saw in Senate Bill 4 is an increase in the homestead exemption from $100K to $140,000. And then also we saw an increase in the additional exemption from $10K to $60K for seniors of 65 plus and disabled homeowners. So we had two components of increased exemptions for homeowners. So when we think about the seniors and disabled, they went from 110,000 of exemptions to 200,000 of exemptions. So with the increase in the homestead exemption, it decreased and absorbed any potential increase in the certified value that brought it down, that left the rate exactly where it was in 2024. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
That was exactly my question, so thank you for the,
Yeah.
So that, just to clarify, making sure I understood it. So we had seen some pretty significant reductions in our tax rate from compression as property values increased, but when they've been changing the homestead exemptions and giving more relief there, it then reduces the effect of what the compressed rate goes to. And because it was such a big jump this year with the addition of the seniors, it completely offset any additional compression.
That's correct, yes.
That makes sense.
What was the 9% increase you were, yeah?
So when we look at maintaining the same amount of revenue generated from the 2024 tax rate and apply it to the updated certified values, it reduces the rate, so there's no new revenue rate. So the increase from the no new revenue to the tax rate here, it is essentially a 9.1% increase in revenue,
So would that basically just be recaptured?
essentially.
As the property values increase, even if we're paying the same rate, the funding formulas don't change, so we're getting funded the same, but the excess is going back in recapture. Is that another way of saying that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that. I think that's one of the most common questions that I receive after our budget workshops is why are we not adopting the no new revenue tax rate? Because that is a common agenda point that you typically hear in municipal, like city and town budget hearings. And so I'll state, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're looking at maybe a typical municipal budget, that revenue that they collect from homeowners is their revenue that they can use. And so holding them to a no new revenue tax rate requires them to maintain the cost of their operations. What's very different about a school district is that the amount of tax collection that we have is not our revenue. On the M&O side, the state determines how much of that collection that we are actually able to keep inside our schools. And so this to me has always confused me, why the school districts are required to make statements in relation to a no new revenue tax rate when we do not control the state funding formula. So that's I think I made this comment last year. It's my yearly PSA for my soapbox. Thank you.
Need to be said about the wording around taxes and the strategic wording used for the purposes of driving interesting questions.
I appreciate you including the tax rate worksheet inside the board book. I think that adds some clarification for the community that it is a calculation that is provided to us through the state. Aside from our voter approved pennies, all of that is calculated for us. And so our approval today could be considered perfunctory in that regard. Again, my comments.
I'm going to read the motion language that I think we have to word it this way. I'll preempt before I start that by saying this 9.1% increase doesn't come to us. I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of $1.2552, which is effectively a 9.1% increase in the tax rate.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, trustees, our next two agenda items, number 15 and 16, relate to our bond program and facility planning. Agenda item 15, bond update presentation. Mr. Percival and Mr. Wilman.
All right, good evening, board. I will get us started on the update for the 2025 bond. Something that's familiar that we have shared throughout the process and the previous board meetings, and the update is our timeline as it relates to the RFQ, architectural and related services, and then also our timeline as it relates to the bond issuance. So we are nearing the final steps of this process, where tonight we'll be presenting a recommendation for your consideration for the architectural and related service, professional services. And then also tomorrow we'll be closing out, as you may recall, that last month's board meeting, you guys consider or approve the authorization of the first installment of the 2025 bonds. So we'll be closing on that tomorrow, and we'll receive the funds tomorrow in the amount of $80.335 million. The breakout as it relates to the first installment, you'll see that we'll be drawing funds from each of the four voter-approved propositions, with a majority of it coming from Prop A. And then you'll see that some of it will be applied to Prop B, but not 100% of that, because most of Prop B is going to be your technology, which are going to be the devices that are not attached to the building. So there's a refresh cycle on that. So we'll be drawing on future installments as the refresh cycle is needed. But as it relates to Proposition D and E, you'll notice that 100% of the voter-approved amounts are being drawn in the first installment there. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Percival to kind of walk through the different projects that will be used with the first installment of the bonds.
Thank you, Mr. Willman. So as Thomas mentioned, each of the propositions were included in the first installment. And so what that looks like and translates to in looking at the current plan is Hart Elementary School, and that would be all-encompassing. So that means development of education specifications, technical design, architectural design, and the entire architectural renovation. So that's both interior and exterior. There's a lot of work to be done over at Hart, but it is going to not only help upgrade and update the interior, but it will also include traffic circulation and parking upgrades over there to that facility. So we're excited about that. The addition of the wrestling gym over at the high school, that's both planning and construction. Roofing at Puster. HVAC, lighting, cabling, and ceiling upgrades at both Puster and Sloan Creek Intermediate. Landscape and irrigation improvements at both Puster and Sloan Creek. Site paving repairs and upgrades, again at both Puster and Sloan Creek Intermediate. Transportation maintenance facility, that will be a planning, demo, and construction over there on that 3-acre triangle off of Country Club. Technology upgrades, that's devices and software, including classroom displays at the high school and Willow. Baseball, softball will get windscreens and AV upgrades. Tennis facilities, that includes court surfaces, nets, windscreens, and lighting at the high school. Transportation, so the facility is one portion of it, but also bus purchases and rider safety equipment for our bus fleet. The Nauditorium, that will be a complete fabric replacement there, along with pool and facility upgrades. And then security fencing at Puster, Sloan, and Willow Springs Middle School. So our pathway forward, like Mr. Willman mentioned, later tonight, there'll be a recommendation to the board to engage with an architect for architectural and professional services. Presentation for the potential formation of a bond implementation committee, which we'll talk about here shortly. Development of a master plan outlining the scope and schedule of each project in collaboration with architects, financial advisors, and legal advisors. Bond-related project management staffing considerations. Visioning, educational specifications, and technical design guideline development in collaboration with architects, teachers, and administrators. And then master planning and design process. So these are all kind of the areas that we will navigate as we continue our work forward. So as far as the architectural and related services, there'll be a recommendation, again here shortly, to engage professional architectural services from VOK Architects. If you recall, VOK helped lead us through long-range facility planning, bond planning, and so they're very familiar with the school district and our facilities, along with all components of the voter-approved 2025 bond. The scope of services that will be provided will include development of the bond master plan, both scope and schedule. We'll collaborate with district leadership, financial and legal advisors, facilitate visioning sessions with staff and community, create educational specifications and technical design guidelines, and provide full design and permitting services throughout the projects. So that was a lot. I'm going to pause there, and I'll take any questions or comments that maybe we have up to this point.
Question about the recommendation for VLK. I know they were involved in the bond planning committee process. Can you speak to if and how that influenced your decision for their recommendation for this part of the process? And are those in any way tied together?
So we're going to talk a little bit about that shortly, but I do want to answer that question. So what we did is we issued a request for qualification that was separate and apart from the work that happened with both the long-range facility planning and the bond planning. So if you remember, about a year and 3 months ago, we came to the board and we issued an RFQ just for that long-range facility planning and bond planning to help us navigate that. And at that point, it was specifically for those services. That was issued, we ranked them, we brought them forward for consideration, then moved forward with VOK based on their qualification. We completed that work back in May. And so since that portion, we had kind of graduated to the next chapter, we brought back another RFQ, posted that out, and followed the legal requirements. We brought forth the 5 responses that we got back in July. We proposed our rankings. You guys voted and accepted the rankings that were based on qualification criteria that we set forth specifically for the projects that are in the bond now moving forward. So yes, sir, they're separate and apart. Good question. So one of the things that we also would like, I'm sorry, are there any other questions on the content that we covered up to this point? So one of the things that we also would like to do, and tonight we're just going to kind of walk through it and bring it back in September for consideration, is potentially the formation of a bond implementation committee. This bond implementation committee would help strengthen transparency, encourage community involvement, and then also support the successful execution of the voter-approved bond projects. So what that would look like from a purpose standpoint would be to provide feedback and guidance on bond-funded projects, promote transparency and alignment with community expectations, support accountability and public trust, and responsibilities of community members, if one were to be formed, would be to review project plans and timelines, monitor progress and expenditures, participate in regular meetings and provide input, communicate updates to the community. It would be an advisory-only role, so no decision-making authority on the participants. Committee membership would be between 12 and 15 community members. Would include members from prior bond planning committee. There would be an annual membership review and application process. They would meet at least once every 9 weeks or every quarter. Balanced membership with varied expertise, and then also the board appoints members via formal action, which again, that's something that we would bring in September. The member expectations, there would be no active or pending contracts that would be from 2014 or the 2025 bond programs when we're looking at and considering members. Attendance required, so we really want to make sure we commit. So a maximum of 1 absence throughout that calendar year. And then following all laws, regulations, and LISD policies. To prioritize the district interest over personal and business interests, and then to provide written notice if unable to continue serving on the committee. So the establishment would be under board policy BDF local. The committee would be strictly advisory, would function as a fact-finding, deliberative, and advisory body, and would not assume administrative duties or responsibilities. And then the limitations is that this would not be something, the committee members would not approve contracts, approve change orders or bond sales, approve construction plans, would not approve construction plans, schedules, or maintenance plans, would not select architects, engineers, or consultants, would not approve project designs, materials, or construction methods, would not direct work of district staff or consultants, and would not perform activities assigned by the staff or the superintendent. And so that's basically the charter, the proposed charter that's kind of in chunks. Again, we wanted to bring that forward, just to put it on your radar, to give you some time to consider, to ask questions, and then we'll bring it back in September for potential formation of the committee. Any questions along the potential bond implementation committee?
I've got a question just on the architect on, they're rated based on qualifications, not price. That's just because they're a professional service. But were you able to negotiate with them on their fee?
That's a great question. And so once we came through and brought forward the rankings for you guys to review and approve, then at that point we engage with the actual price negotiations. And so we were able to work, back and forth and come up with an agreeable price. That price is 6.25% of the projects that are assigned to the architect. And we felt good about that number. That number, when benchmarked against the market here in the area, falls right within the median.
And we'll have some additional discussion on architecture here in our next agenda item as well, right?
Yes.
I appreciate the update. I think the bond implementation committee is just going to be great. We certainly had wonderful community participation in our capital planning process and our bond planning process, and this will just carry that forward, so that as all of that important work that took place over a year finally yields itself into actual renovations and those types of things. So I very much support the formation of the committee. And board, one of the things that we'll discuss as part of that charter will be how we want to place board members onto that committee, either on a appointment basis or rotating basis. So I appreciate the work on that and look forward to it. Are there any other questions on bond update or bond implementation committee?
I have a few more slides on the update. Another area that we had talked about earlier when we kind of looked at the chunks that we're going to work through are project management staffing considerations. And so these would be bond funded and could look like bond project manager, a bond IT manager to really have expertise and focus on the IT related items that are part of the bond, and then also an accountant that again would focus solely on bond expenditures. And so to kind of wrap everything up, the master planning and design process would kick off. We would initiate the master planning with the architect once approved, begin the visioning and educational specifications development for projects that are within this first installment, coordinate with teachers, administrators, and stakeholders, develop the staffing model for program management, and then also convene the bond implementation committee if you guys do choose to move forward with that in September. Okay, we're going to transition real quickly from the 25 bond over to the 24 bond and get a brief update on that. 2014, sorry.
All right, so now that we've wrapped up, provide an update on the voter-approved 2025 bonds. We're looking at an update for the 2014, as Mr. Percival shared. So what we're seeing here is that with the 2024 issuance of the 2014 bonds, we still have about $9.4 million left remaining. You can see that we've had interest earnings of over $500,000, which was utilized and fully funded the implementation of what Casey and Mr. Percival presented earlier for the SPAT devices there. So you may recall that as part of the issuance of the bond, district is required to expend the bond proceeds within 3 years of the issuance date. So when we look at when the 2024 bonds were issued, it was May of 2024, which gives us roughly less than 2 years to expend the remaining $9.4 million. So with that being, with that being said, here's a list of expenditures that could be used with the 2014 bonds, and these are items that were either not brought forward by the bond planning committee or were not approved during the 2025 elections, such as upgrades to Leper Stadium as it relates to the track resurfacing to the concessions and commons area. But then also it could look like looking at our fine arts department and the capital expenditures related to the equipment for fine arts, but then also looking district-wide. So this would be just campuses that are not part of a major renovation. So Hart and Lovejoy High School and maintenance and transportation, all part of the budget in there would include replacement of furniture in the classrooms and office space, but the other facilities, it does not. So we'd have to take a look at our classroom desks and chairs and things of that nature. But then also when we're looking at flooring, paint, and fixtures, but then also at Sloan Creek, the track resurfacing there. So these would be items that could be considered as part of the use of funds for the 2024 issuance. So with that being said, so tonight we're only requesting board action as it relates to our engagement with professional architectural services, but then we'll bring forth at the September regular board meeting the recommendation for the bond implementation committee, but then also the use of the 2024 bonds and projects for that. So thank you very much, and happy to answer any additional questions.
Well, I think that is a good segue into agenda item 16, which would be to consider an act on architectural services.
So as we shared, we went through the formal process for RFQ, where the board approved our ranking last month of the 5 responding firms. We did engage in negotiation with the top-ranked one, which was VLK, as previously shared by Mr. Percival. We were able to negotiate a rate of 6.25% of assigned projects, approved projects, which was in line to the median of the market. So at this time, based off of that information, is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve VLK to assist Lovejoy with the scoped services shared in the bond update presentation for specific projects.
So moved as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So trustees, as you know, the 89th legislative session was particularly impactful to school districts. There are a number of policy changes and other requirements that are driven by those legislative changes. Our next 5 agenda items, number 17 through 21, will relate to those changes. So first, I'll introduce that Senate Bill 12 introduced new compliance requirements, including a requirement that all school boards certify compliance with certain provisions of the Texas Education Code on an annual basis. This certification is due to the Texas Education Agency by September of each year, and this certification is required to be performed in a public meeting and have the opportunity for public testimony. So we will start with agenda item number 17, which is public testimony regarding required annual approval of certification of compliance with Texas Education Code sections 11.005 and 22, excuse me. Ms. Taylor, do we have any public comments related to this annual approval of certification of compliance with these code sections? There are none. So with that, we will proceed to agenda item number 18, which is to consider an act on a required annual certification of compliance with Texas Education Code sections 11.005 and 28.0022. So board will begin with inviting Ms. Cordell to provide us some background and acknowledge the district's compliance with this before we vote.
As required by new legislation, I certify compliance with Texas Education Code sections 11.005, 28.0022.
Trustees, are there any additional questions? If not, I will entertain a motion on the required annual certification of compliance with Texas Education Code sections 11.005 and 28.0022.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second that the district is in compliance with this law. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 19, consider an act on board policy updates. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. So in recent legislation, there are two policies that we want to propose that the board adopt. One is EFB local, which is a result of Senate Bill 13 with instructional resources and library materials. You have a copy of the proposed revisions in front of you. Some changes to this policy included the consideration to establish a school library advisory council. It also made some changes to the recommendations and procurement of materials, and also changes related to challenging of library materials. In addition, there are some changes to FFAC local, which is a result of Senate Bill 629, which has to do requiring public schools to implement a policy for schools to administer the nasal Narcan rather than the injection of the Narcan. So both of those, that revised policy is in front of you as well.
Trustees, are there any questions?
Not necessarily a question, but just a comment. And so, or maybe there's a question and a comment. So my first question is, these changes are directed by specific legislation,
Correct. Senate Bill 13 is
Right.
the library, yes.
And so it's my understanding that these, the library books, EFB local revision is based on Senate Bill 13, which does not take effect till September 1.
Correct.
Of this year. So many times when we have a law passed, the law takes effect, and then several or many months later, TEA renders interpretations and rulemaking to help guide schools with respect to their policy updates. Is that fair?
Yes.
So what I think we should do here is, we don't have those TEA updates, and we're not expecting them prior to the effective date of the new law. So what I would suggest is that I make motion to approve the policy revision as presented, subject to SB 13 taking effect on September 1st, 2025, and then we will reserve the right to amend the policy based on any further interpretations, rulemaking, or guidelines set forth by TEA.
And for clarity, Trustee Wood, would that also include FFAC local that was in effect due to SB 629?
Yeah, correct. My motion intended to include the revisions to EFB local and FFAC local based on those laws actually taking effect on 9/1/25, and then reserving the right for us to come back and revise based on any future interpretations or rules published by TEA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? The motion on the table is to approve these two policies, subject to the law going into effect effective September 1st. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item number 20. Consider an act on a resolution establishing a local school library advisory council. Dr. Tinsley.
Just a moment, we're trying to pull up the presentation.
Exit out. What is it called?
It's consider an act on board policies, EFB local and the FFAC.
This might be it.
There we go, thank you. So since you approved board policy EFB local, that does indicate that the board shall establish a school library advisory council. And so what I'll be presenting tonight is that you would consider a resolution to select a school advisory council, library advisory council, and I want to give you some information on the role of that council. It aligns with Texas Education Code 33.025, which basically indicates, was indicated in the policy that you just adopted. So the duties of the committee or the council includes recommending to the Board of Trustees policies and procedures for the acquisition of library materials consistent with the local community values, Also presenting to the Board of Trustees whether library materials proposed for acquisition under the law are appropriate for each age level, grade level of the district and campus for which the library materials are proposed. If feasible, there would be joint agreements or strategies in collaboration with district and public entities, libraries, and community organizations. Also, the committee would recommend the removal of any library materials that the SLAC determines to be harmful material or material containing indecent content or profane content, and the policies and procedures for processing challenges received, and the action to be taken by the district in response to the challenge. The membership of this council would be consistent of at least 5 members, with each member appointed by the Board of Trustees, and each trustee appointing an equal number of members. A majority of the voting members of the SLAC must be persons who are parents of students enrolled in the district and not employed by the district. One of those members shall serve as the chair of the council. The Board of Trustees may also appoint one or more persons to serve as non-voting members of the council from the following groups: classroom teachers, librarians, school counselors, school administrators, business community, and clergy. There are 2 required meetings per year, in addition to other times as necessary to fulfill the council's duties. The meeting shall be posted at least 72 hours before the meeting. Post notice of the date, hour, place, and subject of the meeting on a bulletin board in the central administration office of each campus in the district. It will also should be posted on the district website. The council will be required to prepare and maintain minutes of the meetings that state the subject and content of each deliberation and each vote, order, decision, and other actions taken by the SLAC during the meeting. Audio and video recordings will be required and be posted by the council on the district website. No later than the 10th day of the meeting, submit the minutes and the audio or video recording of the meeting to the district, and then, of course, the district would post those on the website. And this is just outlining what FFAC local would require. So what we are proposing is that there's a resolution in front of you establishing a local school library council, advisory council, that you consider adopting that resolution.
I'll move that we approve this resolution as presented, also subject to this part of SB 13 actually going into effect on 9/1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. The motion on the table is to approve the resolution as presented, pending the law going into effect on September 1st, including with EFB local. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 21, consider an act on updates to the DOI in alignment with legal requirements as a result of the 89th legislative session. So trustees, you have a copy of this presentation in your board packet. We did review and discuss these proposed changes at our August 11th board workshop. So in the interest of efficiency, we won't cover the same information again in this meeting. Are there any additional questions for Ms. Koenig or Dr. Zambezi? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve these changes to the DOI plan.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Board, as we come closer to the end of our meeting tonight, we have a board organizational item. Agenda item number 22 is to consider an act on the board legislative committee membership. Under our board operating procedures, the board recognizes the legislative committee as a standing committee to guide its advocacy efforts and engage the broader community in legislative priorities. I'll quote item 8.6 of our board operating procedure is that the board legislative committee will lead the development of the district's legislative priorities with input from staff, parents, taxpayers, students, and community members. Present recommended priorities to the full board for review and formal adoption in even-numbered years in advance of each regular session of the legislature, and to serve in an advisory capacity and recommend legislative talking points and advocacy plans to the full board. Given that this is an odd-numbered year and the Texas Legislature will not meet again in regular session until 2027, the board's legislative subcommittee will be recommending an approach for district and board engagement with elected officials in between sessions. So board, in compliance with Board Policy BDB Local, the action before us today is to name the membership of this committee of the board with Ms. Cordell as an ex officio committee member. So I'll open the floor for discussion and nominations.
I nominate Jason. Are you willing to do it again?
I'd be happy to serve on the committee again, sure.
I nominate Jeff. Would you be willing to do that again?
I was not making eye contact with you, but yes, I will do that again. Thank you.
I nominate Barrett to continue serving on this committee. Fantastic. Are there any additional nominations? So at this time, board, I will entertain a motion to appoint these three wonderful trustees to our committee.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So I will ask that our newly named committee members and Ms. Cordell will coordinate efforts for the 2025-26 school year. Mr. Janes, would you be willing to serve as committee chair again?
Sure.
Okay, moving ahead, agenda item 23 is our superintendent report. Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, board. We have had an outstanding start to the school year, and we are in the rhythm and routine now, which is exciting. And as you know, we highly value community involvement and engagement. So we are so excited to share that we have launched our advertisement and application for Leadership Lovejoy, which is our parent and community effort to bring folks in and let them take a deep dive into all the functions of our organization. They get to learn about operations and finance and student services, human resources and communication, curriculum and instruction. We love spending time with them. We get them out on our campuses, engaging with our principals, getting in classrooms, seeing what our students are doing. So we encourage our parents and community members to apply. The deadline for application is October 1st at 9 a.m. And Ms. Taylor does a phenomenal job coordinating that program. So if there are any questions, I know she would be happy to engage with parents and community members on that. And then at the same time, we always go ahead and very proactively advertise the Lovejoy ISD Board Academy. That will not take place until December 1st, and people can sign up right until the time that starts. We just want to make sure we provide an outstanding experience and have the room set up right. But if anyone is prioritizing that on their calendar, which is that engagement opportunity to understand and learn more about board service, that is scheduled for December 1st at 1 p.m.
Wonderful, thank you. So agenda item 24, public comment related to non-agenda item. Ms. Taylor, do we have any public comments? No comments, wonderful. So we will move forward. As we close our meeting tonight, I do have a few items to share. As part of our agenda this evening, the board did adopt its 25-26 board operating procedures. In alignment with these new operating procedures, each trustee will affirm our personal commitment to board policy BBF, which is board member ethics, and our governance norms, which is how we intend to collaborate and interact together as a board. While trustees have always been expected to uphold these standards, beginning this year, we will formalize the process where each trustee will sign an annual certification so that our commitments are documented and transparent. I've confirmed with the board secretary that all board members have signed this affirmation for the 25-26 school year. Thank you, board members, for your commitment. Additionally, with their assigned scope of work complete, the board's Special Purpose Committee on Board Operating Procedures created on June 4th, 2025 is now considered dissolved. The board's next meeting will be a workshop on Wednesday, September 17th. And with that, we are adjourned.